All right, hello everyone. Eric Marks, findingmiddleearth.com. And it's good to be back to the regular video schedule here. Got back a few days ago from my week-long trip to the Gulf Coast with my family. It was great. Spent some great family time together. Took a lot of photos of the family. And then I had one day where I took a little adventure and took some landscape photos. And that vlog will be coming out pretty soon here. So yeah, thank you guys for letting me off the hook for a week or so on videos. I think I posted like one video, so I'm sorry about that. So before we get started, I have a free 45-minute video, completely free, that I made going over all of my landscape photography gear. Okay, I go through a lot of my bags, and then I go through some accessories that I carry on the outside of the bags. And if you want to have access to that, there's a new subscribe button on my website. Just click the subscribe button on the top right, shoot your email in the box, and then you'll get access to that free video. So, also, I know I've told you guys this in the past. This is really scary for me, but I've dropped about half my clients now. So I'm slowly going from a working photographer to a working educator, because this is what I want to do full time. I think I've told you guys this. I want to do photography education full time, YouTube, workshops, online courses, tutorials. So if you guys want to help support the channel while I'm in the process of making that move, just head over to paypal.me/findingmiddleearth, and I will appreciate that. Other than that, I have my landscape photography post-processing course coming out very soon. And that's going to have hours and hours and hours loaded with all of my knowledge on post-processing. I'm going to pick a few people to give that to for free, just so I can, get it out there and have you guys give me some feedback on it, obviously, because I want feedback. And then coming up after that, so it might be a couple of months, I'm going to go on a journey with the X-T2 of do a complete tutorial series on waterfall photography. Okay, so I'm just going to do waterfall, waters, rivers, creeks, everything with the Fujifilm X-T2, and that's going to be a big on-location video that I'm going to be doing, and that's going to be even more hours of footage, and so that'll be another tutorial that's coming out after the landscape course. Anyway, just wanted to catch you guys up on some stuff that's coming up, just to keep everyone in the loop. So, the video that I'm doing today, all right, is talking about the infamous battle between full frame and APS-C crop sensor cameras, all right? And it's going to be different than most videos because most of them talk about the techie stuff and how many photo sites are on the sensor and the pixel pitch and stuff. And we're going to talk about that some, but there's so many good videos about that on YouTube already. Unfortunately, only a few people do correct information on that. So, be careful about who you watch. So, the reason why I'm getting into this is because a few viewers sent me a video from another YouTube photography channel. It's another person that is really obsessed with a certain brand of camera. And the viewers that sent me the video said, "Hey, Eric, scroll to, minute 13 or something like that and watch what this guy says." And I'm gonna leave the guy unnamed because it's not my style to cause a YouTube feud. I don't. He can do what he wants. But in the video, he was asked by one of his viewers, "Hey, what do you think about Fuji cameras?" And his response was, he kind of laughed and said, "Oh, come on, get serious. Fuji doesn't even make full frame cameras. Get serious. I wouldn't even consider it. If you're going to be a professional and do professional work, you have to have a full frame camera." So I guess my viewers wanted to know what I thought about that. So that's why I'm making this video. I own a Fujifilm X-T2, which is a APS-C, okay, also known as a crop sensor camera. And then I own a Nikon D810, which is your full frame 35mm camera, okay? And I've shot with the D810 and full frame Nikon DSLRs for years and years and years. And I've also shot with APS-C crop sensor DSLRs for years and years. In fact, I own a Nikon D7200. All right, but this is my first run at a crop sensor mirrorless camera, this Fujifilm X-T2. Okay, and I have been extremely impressed with it, as you know from my videos. Specifically, the X-Trans sensors that are inside these things are just incredible. But it kind of bothers me that I've gotten a lot of questions concerning the X-T2, where people have said things like this. Eric, On paper, the Fuji X-T2 seems like it fits me perfect. It has this feature and this feature and this feature that I love, but I'm just kind of on the fence because it's not full frame. And so, you know, of course, my mind goes to, wait, the only deal breaker is because it's not full frame, you know? And so I've emailed those people back, and I've even talked to some of them on the phone, and I've said, tell me why you need full frame. And everyone that I said that to just kind of laughed because they couldn't tell me. They couldn't tell me why they needed it. So let me just tell you some of the common purposes why some people go with full frame over APS-C or APS-C over full frame. Okay, we'll just quickly get into them because, again, there's a million videos about this on YouTube about in-depth, you know, really techie explanations. So I'm going to make it more of a layman's term explanation. So what do we know about full frame sensors? The first thing is it will give you better bokeh, right? It will give you that little bit more extra depth of field on your, you know, well, really on any aperture, but when you're shooting, you know, portrait apertures, 2.8, 1.8, 1.4, the full frame sensor is going to give you a little bit more bokeh. Now, is it a deal breaker? In my opinion, no, because I shoot some portraits too, and I love the quality out of the 35 f2, the 56 1.2, and even the 16 to 55 2.8. Is incredible. Now, a lot of people love the 50 to 140 lens, which I don't own, but it is an incredible lens. I own the 55 to 200, and even that gives me incredible quality, and the bokeh is perfectly acceptable for me. It's perfectly fine, okay? Now, of course, yes, the full frame sensor will give you a little bit better bokeh, okay? Is that a deal breaker? That's for you to decide. For me, it's not a deal breaker, okay? For that area, I could just set this aside and I could go full X-T2, or I could set this aside and I could go full D810, all right? It's really, cameras are getting so good now that issue is just, it's minuscule to me, okay? For my genre of photography, for my purpose, it's just a tiny thing. Let's talk about pixel pitch, okay? So this is where we're getting into a little bit more techie stuff. We're talking about the actual photo sites on the sensor, the distance between the photo sites on the sensor, okay? Which are photo sites, basically pixels, right? Why do people, tons of people, wildlife photographers, all right? Why do they put these really expensive full frame lenses on their crop sensor bodies, right? On maybe like a $1,000 crop sensor body. They'll put like a $15,000 lens, and a lot of wildlife shooters. And the default answer is, oh, well, it's because, you know, the crop sensor will give them more reach on their lenses. That's why they do it. Well, that is one reason, I'm sure. It does give them more reach. But let's say that, you know, their wildlife photographers shoot, you know, wildlife from, you know, 500, 600, 700 yards plus away very often. Okay, that's like the normal thing. And it's kind of a well-known thing as well that wildlife photographers crop a lot of their shots. Now, sometimes they don't, but a lot of times wildlife shooters just spend a lot of time cropping, okay? And the pixel pitch on the crop sensor cameras, all right, is basically going to give you more, it's going to render you more detail when you crop, all right? The way the photo sites are laid out on the sensor, it's going to give you more detail than you crop than on a full frame sensor, all right? Now, think about that. You're probably thinking, well, this has 36 megapixels. You can crop the heck out of this and it'll be great. Well, if you get techie and you look it up, I'm not going to go into the full explanation. Look it up. Look at what pixel pitch is. Look at the pixel pitch difference between a crop sensor camera and a full frame camera. It doesn't matter which one you want to choose. Okay, you can compare whatever two you want, but Google the pixel pitch differences, and you'll see a visual representation of the way the photo sites are laid out on the sensor. And you'll see that when you crop in the sensor, you'll see that the way the photo sites are laid out on the sensor, it will start to visually make sense to you that the crop sensors will render you more detail when you crop in the image, okay? Which also means it's going to give you more detail when you print an image, all right? As far as cropping goes. Now, if you look at the way the photo sites are also laid out on a crop sensor camera, and then you do some multiplying and you scale that up, the Fuji X-T2 is gonna end up being like a 50 plus megapixel camera, all right? If you scale up by you know, what's already on this, what the pixel pitch is on the camera, if you scale that up and multiply to full frame standards, and you keep the same pixel pitch that's on the sensor now by the measurements, it's actually going to be a 50 plus megapixel camera. Now, again, that's a kind of a techie explanation, but that's a big reason why you might want a crop sensor camera if you crop a lot, okay? So even if you're a wedding photographer, a lot of people will say, oh, if you don't have full frame as a wedding photographer, get out of the business. You have no business being a wedding photography. Well, there's a lot of times, and I've shot my fair share of weddings where based on the specific rules of the wedding or maybe the religion of the wedding, you know, you can't have cameras down on the same floor as the bride and groom. You have to be like on a balcony shooting. I've run into that before. And when I was shooting with a crop sensor, I had to crop in a good bit to get, you know, even on my 70 to 200, sometimes I was so far away because the bride and groom's family didn't want any noise, you know, from the shutters going on at all. You had to be kind of far away. When you crop in, you get more detail, okay? You just get more detail. Now, let's talk about the full frame sensor in low light situations, okay? Inherently, the full frame sensor generally also is known to produce lower noise at high ISO. So that is true, okay? And that remains true, that the full frame sensor is going to give you lower noise ratios at higher ISOs, okay? But that doesn't mean that it gathers more light, okay? It just means that the way the pixels and the way the sensor is laid out, and the way the photosites are laid out, and the way it renders the image from the sensor when it exposes to the level of light, it's not going to render as much noise in the image as an APS-C camera would. Now, again, differences can be very minuscule depending on the camera, because I have briefly got to shoot with my friend's Nikon D500, and that camera does pretty incredible in low light, okay? Even the D810, for it being 36 megapixels, does pretty darn good in low light, all right? I can get 6400 ISO usable images out of this all day long. Now, the word usable is different to every person, so again, I would, before you make any big decisions, rent one of these cameras and play around with it, or go to your camera store, play around with it, do some test shots. I just wanted to make this video to kind of put this whole full frame versus crop sensor thing to rest, that it's a very controversial issue. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of good information out there, but let's put the techie stuff aside and just ask yourself a question. Why do you need a full frame sensor? Or why do you need an APS-C sensor? If you can answer that question, then you probably don't even need to be watching this video. Go buy the one you want because you know you want it and you know the reason why you want it. If you can't decide, hopefully this video helped you out. In a lot of the ways, the differences are so minuscule for the genres of photography that you just buy the camera that's right for you based on the IQ of the camera and maybe the specs that you need, okay? Because, for example, I would never be a sports shooter and I would, you know, and take the D810. If I was going to shoot a sports gig or some fast action, I would take my X-T2 right now out of the two cameras that I own, because the focus tracking on this is just incredible. And I get 11 frames per second in boost mode with the battery grip, okay? So that would be the right tool for the job, all right? But if someone gives me a call and they say, Eric, I have a job for you where I need you to photograph this specific thing or this specific place, and I'm going to need a 40 by 60 print by next week, and the 40 by 60 print is going to have a viewing distance of, you know, pretty close up, let's say 6 to 8 feet. I want people to walk up and be able to see the detail. Well, if I got a call like that, I would be an idiot not to choose this tool for the job, right? The full frame 36 megapixel beast to go produce me a 40 by 60 print at a shorter viewing distance. Well, that's just the tool for the job. So ask yourself why you need one or the other, and I think you can figure it out better than us YouTubers can tell you what to do, because when you guys ask us questions, YouTube photographers, okay, not that I'm some big YouTube photographer, but whenever you ask me questions, I don't always know your situation. I don't know your genre of photography. I don't know, you know, what kind of stuff you shoot on a daily basis. I don't know the specific job you're talking about. It's all, I have different tools for the job, and sometimes I've had to rent, you know, different tools. Like before I had the D800 series, I used to rent the D3X if I was going to do, you know, bigger prints, because I had the, let's see, I had the D3, and I even had a D2X and a D700, okay? But if I did like bigger prints, and by, I guess, my gosh, years ago, I considered it like a big print, like a 20 by 30, and I used to rent the D3X, all right? So you just, you know, think about that. Think about what you really need for your personal photography. Don't think about what everyone says you need, because this whole full frame thing is just kind of stuck in everyone's head that, oh, well, maybe I'll eventually get to that professional level of full frame camera. Well, it's funny that people say, oh, Fujifilm doesn't make a full frame camera. Well, guess what? They make a medium format camera. They make a GFX, and that's gonna exceed the size of the full frame camera, okay, by like that much. Not seriously, but it's a huge sensor. So think about what you need. If you can answer your own question, then just go buy what you need. Don't let other people like me and other photographers influence you if you already know what you need for you. Okay, that's kind of the reason why I'm making this video. So pixel pitch for cropping, low light, more bokeh, less bokeh. Okay, just the basic reasons why people try to decide over full frame and APS-C, but I promise you most of those differences aren't going to matter to most people. Okay, now if you're a professional and you need a specific tool for a specific job, you should be able to answer your own question. But ask yourself that question, the question that I asked a few of my viewers when I gave them my phone number. Okay, why do you need a full frame? They couldn't give me an answer. And that's what led to them ultimately saying, yeah, I can live with an X-T2. I would love the X-T2. And they have reported back since our phone calls, and they're loving the X-T2. So I could live with either one of these cameras as my main camera. I've done a video before where I've printed 20 by 30 from the X-T2, and it was fantastic. It was phenomenal, okay? You can print 20 by 30 with the X-T1 for crying out loud, okay? And think about the 16 megapixels on that, okay? Most people would say, oh, you can never print with a 16 megapixel. Remember, printing is all about viewing distance. A million different things go into printing. That's a whole different video. But both of these cameras are very capable. You don't have to have a full frame camera to be a professional and to do professional work. Tons of people I know use the X-T2. Tons of people I know use D800s, D810s. At the end of the day, what works for you? That's what you have to decide. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you would like to stay up to date on all of my photography videos and free tutorials, please consider subscribing by clicking on my face. And if you would like to find out more about me and how to improve your photography, visit my website at findingmiddleearth.com.